Are you creating experience or experiencing creation? Recently, I found myself in conversation with someone who expressed an idea that has become quite common in the self-help, spiritual and personal development circles. It is a simple phrase, and that phrase is, we create our own experience. At first glance, this sounds liberating, and if it were that simple, who would have a problem with it? It's largely accepted. If we can improve our experience by changing our thoughts, shifting our attitude, or adopting a different perspective, we can improve our experience of life. It looks like the answer to our suffering is entirely within our control. Many people find comfort in the idea that the solution to distress, any type of distress, rests firmly in their own hands. But I'm not convinced that the matter is quite as simple as it first appears. Throughout the current series, I have been exploring the nature of conditioning and the degree to which the individual is shaped by inherited beliefs, cultural influences, the impact of family, social expectations, education, religion, and some other factors that existed long before we began to investigate. If that's true, and I don't doubt that it is, then the claim that we are creators of our own experience becomes more difficult to defend than many people assume. Did we create our genes? Did we create our family or home environment? Did we create the culture we were born into? And ultimately, did we create the beliefs that were instilled in us before we could even form questions? The individual enters a world in which the stream of life is already in progress. Much of what we later refer to as me has been adopted, inherited, reinforced and conditioned long before we ever began to be self-aware. During the conversation, I suggested an alternative possibility. What if instead of attempting to create a better experience, we simply experience the creation? The distinction might seem subtle, but somewhat profound. If we believe that we can create our own experience, we can get trapped in a lifelong project of psychological management. We could spend our entire lives trying to have good thoughts, positive emotions, develop better habits and beneficial mental states. We might feel we are improving, optimizing and controlling our lives. When experience becomes something to improve, optimize and control, life becomes a project. The self becomes a manager and the mind becomes a workshop of unending adjustment. The pursuit of a better experience may well be resistance to the experience that is already unfolding. The constant need for a better experience prevents us from truly experiencing the experience that we are already engaged in. When every present experience is evaluated with a what if, it's impossible for that experience to be met as it actually is. Instead, it is evaluated, compared, judged and found wanting. Then, attention is no longer given to the experience, but to the gap between what is and what we think should be. In this way, the pursuit of a better experience can become a subtle but active rejection of the experience that is already here. The mind remains occupied with options for improvement, correction and movement toward an imagined future, leaving the present largely unexamined. Now, this is not an argument for resignation, surrender, passivity or indifference. It's an invitation to shift attention away from becoming and toward observing what already is. Over 30 years ago, I began examining my own conditioning. Not because I had a plan for self-improvement, but because questions arose that I felt, demanded attention. Looking back now, I can see that profound changes occurred as a result. Some beliefs weakened their grip, certain fears weakened, and certain behaviours eventually just fell away. None of this came about from consciously trying to improve myself. The transformation occurred through seeing, through observation, and through the understanding of what was already there. This is an important distinction. Self-improvement begins with the assumption that something is wrong and must be fixed. This approach seeks transformation. Self-observation, on the other hand, begins with the question, what is actually happening here? This approach seeks understanding. Ironically, understanding, it seems, can initiate the transformation anyway, but the transformation arrives as a consequence, not as an end in itself. When I offered this difference to my conversational partner, something interesting happened. He became very still. For a moment, the momentum of striving seemed to cease. The question was no longer how to create a better experience, but whether the attempt to create a better experience was even part of the issue. I'm not claiming that I possess an answer, but I suggest that we consider the question, if we're willing, are we here to create a better, more acceptable experience of life, or are we here to simply experience the creation that is life itself? The difference might be far more significant than it first appears.